Welcome to the Bluebell Inn Helpston Community Pub campaign. This short film explains the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity we have in Helpston to save our last remaining pub. At one time, Helpston had as many as 8 pubs, but since the Exeter Arms closed, we now only have the Bluebell Inn on Woodgate. The Bluebell is now up for sale. Alas, pubs are closing all over the country. And this film is about how a group of villagers have come together to do something about it. We are determined not to lose our last village pub on our watch. We believe our village can come together and buy the Bluebell and run it as a community asset, bringing so much more than just a pub. This is an exciting opportunity. Community pubs are everywhere and they are very successful. Here is a recent BBC One Country File feature on what they can bring to communities like Helpston.
Now, rural shops and pubs have traditionally been the beating heart of their communities, so losing them is a big deal, with many villages ready to fight hard to keep theirs open. Here's Dashi.
The reality for local pubs and shops is far from the picture postcard image of village life. Between 2015 and 2022, more than 3,000 rural pubs called last orders. And in the last 10 years or so, around 1,200 village stores closed their doors.
But there is hope as more and more rural communities are banding together to rescue their pubs and shops from closure.
In the last 10 years, these sorts of community-owned and run enterprises have grown significantly. One set of figures has them more than doubling from 300 to 700. One village trying to buy its local pub is Loddiswell. It's home to around 1,000 people on the South Devon coast and is so old it features in the Domesday Book from 1086. Today, the village still has one shop, but it lost its post office 6 years ago. And last March, the pub, the 16th century Loddiswell Inn, closed.
Oh yay! Please save our village pub. Help us raise the funds to buy our wonderful pub. And may God save the King.
Roger Pinder is the village crier. At one time, he was the landlord of the Loddiswell Inn.
Roger, I mean, this is a picture of you almost 20 years ago in
Certainly
this pub
is.
running it.
Yeah, still the same bar. Still the same handle that, you know, some things just never change.
Why did it close?
When I came here, it was owned by a brewery, but then it evolved into what they call pubcos. Well, a pubco is an estates company that actually own pubs and either rent them or lease them. The only problem there is, yes, you pay for a lease, you pay overheads as well, but they also want their share of the pie on what you sell behind the bar.
So they're taking a big slice of the profits?
Yes. A lot of them, the time, you have to buy your beers and wines and spirits from them, and there's a markup on it.
Why are you so optimistic that you can keep it going this time?
Because we will own the freehold. We will own the pub. So we haven't got responsibilities to an outside company who need to make their share of the profit. So that profit will come back into the pub. You know, we can sell a pint of beer probably £2 cheaper than they are in town.
How much does this pub mean to you?
Quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could get emotional about it.
I can tell how much it means to you.
I love it.
The clock is ticking, though, for the village to save their pub. They've registered the building as a community asset with their local council, meaning no one else can attempt to buy it before the start of March. The villagers are hoping to get more than half of the £400,000 cost of buying and fitting out the pub from the government's Community Ownership Fund. This scheme supports groups across the UK, trying to save things like local pubs from being lost. But that still leaves them trying to raise just over £60,000 themselves by the start of next month. So far, they're at around £35,000. Janice Gordon has lived in the village for 13 years. She's helping lead the campaign.
Are you confident that you're going to get the money in time?
We are absolutely confident. Every time we have a meeting, no one has ever said, what happens if we don't?
And tell me, how are you fundraising?
We are fundraising with the usual village things like 1980s discos and quizzes and curry nights. And after that, we will be selling shares and they will then be buying a part of the pub. So without the village, the pub can't be bought.
The community can buy shares in the pub. The minimum amount is £50. But in order to get the majority of financial support from the government's Community Ownership Fund, the Loddiswell Inn will need to be turned into a local hub, rather than just a pub.
We have got to prove to them that this is going to be everything. It's going to include all the village all the time. Coffee, afternoon tea, scones on the lawn. It's got to be everything all the time.
I don't want to be the voice of doom, but what happens if you don't raise the money?
That is never going to happen. Where there's a will, there's a way.
So far, around 300 local people have expressed an interest in buying shares in the pub. Among them are Tia Bryant and Paul Harvey. Tia moved here 2 years ago, whilst Paul, a third-generation beef farmer, has lived here all his life.
It was a vibrant place. All the locals would meet up. It was before the internet, and say that's when the bar was in full swing.
Ah, so what decade are we looking at here?
That's in the 1980s.
Wow,
And,
okay.
Yeah, I'll say that's one Christmas when the pub was packed out.
Why is the pub so important to you?
It's very much a focal point of the village. My family have been here for about 100 years. And so we've got a long history associated with the pub and the village in general, and it'd be great to get it back to where it was.
You've moved here quite recently.
Yes, I have, yeah.
Just before the pub closed.
Yes, so yeah, about a month or so after I moved here, it closed down, which was such a shame.
Why does having a village pub mean so much to you?
I think they're such a good place for socialising. I moved to the village about a year ago and did find it quite hard to integrate. And if the pub had been open, then I think it would have made that process a lot easier.
And I mean, you guys are meeting for the first time right now, but if the pub had been open, you'd probably be good old friends by now.
Yes, probably.
Definitely.
And we'd be all inside having a pint and not
Yeah.
sitting out in the cold.
That's right. Yeah.
It might seem like an uphill battle to find the funds to buy their pub, but there is additional support for communities like Loddiswell. Plunkett UK is one of the organisations offering expert advice on setting up community-owned businesses. James Alcock is the charity's chief executive.
So how many community-owned pubs and shops are we talking about in the UK?
So in the last 20 years, we've supported almost 700 rural community-owned businesses, and they range from village shops and pubs through to cafes, farms, woodlands, bakeries, any kind of business that you can imagine.
How easy is it for communities to buy something like their local pub or shop, get control of it, but then run it as a viable business?
So I'm not going to say it's easy, but it is achievable, and we see about 500 communities every year approach Plunkett for advice and support, and about 30 of those every year will achieve trading. So it is an achievable process, but it needs determination and support.
Surely if a shop or pub has closed, that tells you that the business just wasn't viable.
Well, that's what you'd think, but the community, once they've got it in community ownership, they run it in the way that they believe is what the community wants. And so it evolves, and we often talk about businesses being more than, and it's more than what they used to be before. So a pub like this will be used for a cafe, a shop. It will host a wide range of additional services and clubs and amenities, and it will bring the whole community together. So it has that footfall. It will evolve over time as well.
How successful are they?
So it's a really successful business model. It's very, very resilient, and they have a 5-year survival rate of 99% and a 20-plus survival rate of 92%.
Back in Loddiswell, the future of the village pub is still in doubt, but they're optimistic they'll raise the money in time.
We've got a village and the village wants to buy the pub. We're looking to open end of November running up to Christmas.
And how will you feel at that precise moment?
Fantastic. Saving a bit of history, keeping a village together. Once we're all here together and celebrating, it'll be amazing.
Our hope is that in 2024, the community in Helpston takes ownership of the Bluebell Inn through a community benefit society. The society will exist to serve the people of Helpston and surrounding area with a first-class rural pub, providing a focus for community events and activities, whilst delivering sustainable profits that will be reinvested in the community.